Now, I thought I would share some thoughts about how to get information, the right information from a man that you care about. And that could be a father, that could be a son, that could be a cousin, that could be perhaps someone who's a partner, someone who you're maybe considering for an intimate relationship. How do you get the right information at the right time from someone you care about? I often say that one of the most important things that both sexes need to have is the skill of knowing when it's the right time to ask questions or to make suggestions. So what I'm going to do is share some ideas, and this may not apply in principle. So this is not, a principle that applies to every single man. All men are not the same. That's one of the most important things you've got to understand. There are exceptions. However, there are fewer exceptions than they are what I call averages. So this will work for most men. Now, how do you get information from the man that you want to have in your life, or the man you want to develop a stronger relationship with? In terms of using the skill of timing, you've got to know when the man or the man in question is in a vulnerable state. I'll give you a good example. When he's tired, he's vulnerable. When he's hungry, he's vulnerable. When he's exhausted, he's vulnerable. When he's stimulated intellectually, mentally, or physically, and physically I'm talking about when he's aroused, he's vulnerable. When his desires are, in a state where you can tell that his, you might call, say, possessed by maybe a fantasy, a thought, an idea, is vulnerable. So understanding how to use the timing of vulnerability is an interesting aspect that you might want to think about. Now, I'm sharing this not for you to use it in a manipulative way. I'm sharing this so you can understand how men think. The greatest men who have ever lived have all fallen to this level of vulnerability. So you've got to learn how to use it. Now, in terms of using a vulnerable state, you want to use that state to get information that is of benefit to you. So for example, if you want to know where the relationship is going to, you want to select the time to ask the question. If you want to know what his dreams of the future are, then you can choose to ask the question in any of the states that I've just mentioned. If, for example, you want to understand who he admires, his mentors, his heroes, his success icons, those people he looks up to, you can ask in any of these states. Now, you can always use these states to get what you want. So if there's something you want, then you can ask. But the key here is not to use these states in a way that only benefits you. I'm sharing this for those who want to know more so they can actually get an understanding about where they stand in the relationship. So think about this. If he's hungry, he's vulnerable. If he's tired, he is vulnerable. If he's intellectually or mentally or even physically aroused or stimulated, he's vulnerable. At those points in time, you can speak to a man's heart and he will share what he has in his heart. Men have secrets, like everyone else has secrets. The key is, when is the right time to get the truth behind the secret? So those are some thoughts. Now, there is a different set of state of mind that you must wait for patiently if you want to ask him for something. For example, let me take it to the extreme. When are we going to get married? You've been dating for a while and you want to know, when are you going to get married? Or perhaps you've been spending time with each other and you want to know, is this exclusive? Is this going somewhere? That's a little bit more of a deeper question. You might also want to know, for example, is there something going on outside this relationship that I need to be aware of? Perhaps if you have doubts about the relationship. If you have thoughts, maybe you've heard things, but you don't want to be accusatory, you want to just ask him directly. That is a different state of mind. You can't apply those questions to the same state that I gave you earlier on. You can't. You get a wrong response. You might also be thinking about stuff like if you want to know his real thoughts and feelings about you, about what he really thinks about you, maybe what he thinks about your family, what he thinks about your friends, what he thinks about specific aspects of your future that you want to know. Now, the state of mind for a man is different. If you ask these questions when he's aroused, mentally, emotionally, or physically, if you ask the same questions when he's tired or when he's hungry, the response you get is very different. Absolutely different. So think about this. It's all about understanding the gift, the skill, and the beauty of timing, knowing when it's the right time to ask the question. I love what King Solomon said. He said that there's a time for everything under the sun, and to every time there is a purpose and a season. So you also have to use the same skill and choose the right time to ask the right questions.